Hey everyone, it's Will, Gamer Dad, with another video for you. So in this video, we're going to take on one of the toughest horrors of the optional 8 spirits in the Eastern region part 2. Now if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel, I really appreciate it. Also, I do have a Patreon account for those who want to support me this way. So the riddle from the Dogu, in order to conquer the crab Bonze, leads us to the Dragon God's Swamp. And essentially, you're going into the very first area, and you're going to each corner and looking for a pillar. And when you press on it, it'll tell you a description of, some stuff. And once you rearrange the description to match the riddle, put in the numbers in order, and you will get the answer that you need. So you see 4, 3, 1, and 5. And now that we conquered the intellectual part of this battle, let's try for the physical part of this battle. Now, I actually took a few days to actually formulate a strategy for this. I first attempted this last week when the update was still going on, and essentially I got a little bit frustrated, so I had to take a break, finish off the main story, and come back to this now that I have a little bit more time and a little bit less rush in order to upload videos. Now, Crab Bonze has a 5-turn rotation. The first turn, it buffs itself in terms of earth resistance. So essentially, it is weak to earth. However, if you leave that shield up, you will essentially never do any damage to it. So in the first turn, note that I did just an int down with Calamity Axe. Turn 2 is going to do a mega damage water AoE, and so you'll need to use Calamity Axe in my case to apply a 20% int down. You also need Earth Wall, or obviously if you want to use Mario you can. However, I would recommend using Myrus and Tuva for sure, being that the enemy is much more vulnerable to magical earth attacks than physical earth attacks. In turn 3, it does a 2 times non-elemental slash, and so I use Mana's Mephistopheles to power down 35% for 3 turns while increasing int up for 35% for 3 turns. And the reason for that is you want to do that on turn 3 because turn 4 is just he's buffing his own power as well as getting ready for a super mega AoE slash water attack. So if you don't have the power down, you will die even with a couple of shields up from Earth Wall and if you want to use Aurora Force. Now in my case, in turn 4, I activate AF. So I rotated in Tsubame, and Tsubame has 2 uses. First of all, her 3 times XL attack does extend AF. Her VC actually also increases speed by 30%, but most importantly, it decreases power of the enemies for 1 turn by 20%. So in combination with Earth Wall, and note that I did cast Earth Wall as my first move for Cyrus within the AF, it allows everyone to be protected, especially since Tsubame just came in. And as a result, I was able to survive the 5-turn rotation. And then turn 1 is the same thing. It's going to start putting its Earth Shield up, in which case you will need to have mana in there to remove it. The rotation actually remains the same for the first 2 rounds of 5 turns. And the reason for that is, you will do first turn, whatever. And then second turn, you will have to do Midnight Centurion by mana, as well as use Calamity Axe to apply the int down in order to survive that turn 2 water AoE. And again, you're continuing to do damage with Double Crush, and Double Crush has 2 hits, so it will power your AF bar much more quickly than a single Call of the Dark. Now note that Call of the Dark is my go-to move for the AF, only because it does a tremendous amount of damage and boosts everyone's earth damage by, I think, 30%, being that it's a manifest weapon. And of course, you do need Earth Wall on turn 2 in order to survive that AoE, as well as having an Earth Wall maintained for turn 5 with its physical water AoE. Other than that, as long as you cast turn 3 Mephistopheles, then turn 4 is relatively safe, and then turn 5, like I said, you're just waiting to protect yourself. Note that I also use Myrus's Power Heal because I'm not using Mariel right now, but you will see her importance later on. The reason is because this battle takes a long time, much longer than most horror battles, you will need upwards of 3 AF depending on the power and Grasta on your team in order to defeat it. So you also need time to boost your AF bar by doing multiple attacks. And since most of our attacks are single attacks only, I mean you have a double attack from Calamity Axe, you also have a double attack from Double Crush. Myris only does a single attack, and you're not using Tsubami to power up your AF bar because she doesn't have any defensive capabilities in order to survive a lot of those AoEs. So now you notice that turn 5 we had double shield, and don't forget that if you need extra physical resistance, use Practical from Mana as well. So my moveset for Mana is Practical, Mephistopheles, and Midnight Centurion, and the last two are extremely important, otherwise you essentially can't win this game. I'm not sure about other people and what kind of strategies they use, but I would imagine that Mana is one of those required ones in order to remove that Earth shield. Okay, so this is round 3 of the rotation, and again, a reminder that this is a 5-turn move fixed rotation. Mario, in this case, is clearly only to move people to the back in order to maintain the rotation, as well as allow people to recover MP or HP from the back. Keep in mind that without using OG Nagi with the Manifest weapon, the int down won't be there without the Manifest weapon, and you'll lose as well. Now, if you do have other people like Yuna or Lokido AS, obviously they will do very well in this case. However, many of us don't have all the Earth characters or the most efficient debuffer in the game with Yuna OG, and so we rely on Manifest Nagi to do the trick. And again, with turn 2 being that water AoE and turn 5 being that physical water AoE, the moveset remains the same. So again, Midnight Centurion on turn 2, followed by the Calamity Axe to apply int down. Turn 3 you use Mephistopheles. Turn 4 you can apply Practical and or whatever. And then turn 5 you have to put up either Earth Wall, Aurora Force, or some combination of that. After that, you can just find an opening to do your second AF. And you can see I took my opportunity here now that I have a full bar. Keep in mind I am still using the rotation of Tsubami to protect myself from physical, being that it does power down while upon entering, as well as the speed really does help those slow mages. So very little damage on your first 2 characters. So you can see that the boss is down to about 1/3 life. I estimate this boss to have over 10 million HP, so not going to be a quick battle, being that there's so many shields and so many things to work around. Again, I do enjoy the challenge in that the mechanics of each battle are quite different from some of the more straightforward, 1-turn AF, 2-turn AF, zone this, zone that. So this one is definitely challenging, and I would say also a very tight DPS check in the fact that if you do run out of MP and you're not creating enough damage, you're not going to complete this battle. That being said, I'm sure you can extend it by doing efficient rotations, but in terms of required characters, I'm pretty sure that you will need one dedicated int debuffer, and obviously Nagi does do well. If you have to use someone else, I'm sure you can use a less efficient int debuffer, but it just won't add to your AF bar, being that, if it's not an Earth-based character, you're not going to be powering up your AF bar or maintaining your AF bar as quickly. So at this point, just keep the rotation the same as the first 2 or 3 rounds. Try to build up one more AF, try not to die, and the battle should be over. I will say at this point in the battle, I was getting very, very stressed out because, one mistake can easily end. And, for those who wonder how I do these boss battles without either guides or whatever, I actually just write down the 5-turn rotation as I fight through it and die, and I kind of find ways around each move, knowing that the 5 moves are essentially the same. Now, if the boss is having random moves, I do make a note of it mentally in terms of which moves might come up, and I try to find solutions to each of them. As it stands, that's why I didn't tackle this boss last week, and I had a little bit more time to kind of contemplate my moves this week. And if you're wondering, it took me about 2 hours of fiddling around with the right team, as well as the rotations in order to get this done. I'm sure there are a lot of other YouTube videos that have beaten this particular boss. I try not to watch any of them, and I didn't watch any of them in this case, so I did have people suggest that, obviously using all mages will be effective. Some people have suggested using Garyu, because even though Garyu is fire, and by the way, the boss is resistant to fire, it does have an int boost on all mage users' damage by 50% with Garyu's manifest weapon. That being said, I didn't find that fit into my rotation anyways, and so let's go with the more traditional route, like I said, of a dedicated int debuffer, mana, and your 2 mage dealers. Keep in mind that you can also use Helena, but Helena is going to be a lot less efficient than Myris in that you don't have an earth shield to protect against water. Also, Myris doubles as a healer as well. In terms of Tuva, probably one of the most powerful mage earth DPS in the game currently anyways. I mean, there's going to be other earth characters in the future. Okay, so you can see this is turn 4, and remember that we're going to end it right here before turn 5 where he does his physical water AoE. At this point, I was much more relaxed knowing that the battle is totally over and we have tons of AF bar left to go to beat the, whatever, out of crab Bonze. And this was very, very satisfying to beat. I'm sure you guys all know the feeling. When you beat something that's very, very difficult, is awesome. And we're done. Nice!
Ooh, that's hot.
Yes. Yes, it was. So this is my 7th horror done. 1 more left to go, and I'm not sure if I can beat it like I've mentioned in other videos. It is weak to water, and it's got the 5-turn rotation that kills you for 9999 on the 5th turn. I know that I could probably use Galliard to jump up and avoid that super move, but I don't know if I want to grind through another 2 or 3 AFs. We'll see how I feel in a few days. Anyways, we get Miyaki's fists. So take a look, power up, as well as critical rate up. So not too bad as another extra fist to use. I'll see if I want to slot it into any of my existing fist characters. But remember that type attack does a lot more. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.